Historical myth often frames the voyage of 1492 as an act of pure visionary courage, a lone explorer braving a dark, uncharted ocean because he alone dared to test the limits of the map. In reality, Columbus arrived at the Spanish court pitching a mission built on catastrophic mathematical errors. He was proposing a journey that was physically impossible to complete. This map shows the scale of the delusion. Columbus estimated the distance from the Canary Islands to Japan at roughly 2,400 miles. The actual gap, across open ocean with absolutely no land masses in the way, is approximately 10,600 miles. A 15th century caravel had strict physical limits. Its small hull could not carry enough fresh water or food to sustain a crew across 10,000 miles of empty sea. Had the world actually matched Columbus's pitch, he would have sailed his fleet into the center of the Pacific Ocean, and his entire crew would have died of starvation. The central mystery isn't how he survived the crossing, but how a literal suicide mission was ever approved in the first place. The actual size of the Earth was not a mystery in the 1400s. Ancient Greek mathematicians had already accurately calculated the planet's circumference at roughly 25,000 miles, a figure accepted by most educated astronomers of the era. Columbus rejected that established model. He instead turned to the work of a 9th century Arab geographer named Al-Farghani, who had proposed a significantly smaller planet. This reveals his first fatal error. Al-Farghani used Arabic miles, but Columbus converted them directly into Roman miles without adjusting for the longer Arabic mile. This single error shrank the Earth's circumference by 1/4 in Columbus's mind. He then added a second error. He took Marco Polo's exaggerated accounts of Asia and stretched the continent's eastern coastline much farther than it actually went, slapping this bloated landmass onto his already shrunken globe. This specific chain of bad data transformed a lethal 10,600-mile abyss into a navigable 2,400-mile jump. Columbus spent years taking his 2,400-mile map to the royal courts of Portugal and Spain, searching for a patron. Despite the popular flat Earth myth, royal experts rejected him precisely because they understood the science. They knew the true circumference of the Earth and correctly diagnosed his math as a death sentence for any crew that followed it. The project only survived because of a political loophole. In January 1492, the fall of Granada completed the Reconquista, leaving the Spanish monarchs in a mood of expansive euphoria. Political momentum suddenly overrode scientific consensus. Ferdinand and Isabella funded the voyage, essentially sending a doomed fleet out into the abyss. 5 weeks into the crossing, the tension turned toward mutiny. The crew was far beyond the 2,400-mile mark where Columbus had promised they would find land. By October 10th, the situation was close to open revolt. Columbus begged for just 3 more days to prove his calculations were correct. On October 12th, they hit land, roughly 2,500 miles from the Canary Islands, exactly the distance predicted for Japan. But this wasn't Asia, it was the Bahamas, a continent no European map had accounted for, sitting directly in the middle of the open ocean. The Americas acted as a geographic safe point. They were an unexpected landmass that intercepted his ships and rescued Columbus from the consequences of his own hubris. Columbus never realized his mistake. He made 4 voyages to the Caribbean and died in 1506, still maintaining he had found a western route to the Indies. His bad math was the only reason the voyage happened. It convinced him the journey was possible, it kept him sailing until he hit land, and it provided a location where land actually existed. The worst mathematical miscalculation in navigational history provided the exact coordinates for a continent no one knew was there. The error was the absolute precondition for the discovery. If Columbus had known the correct distance to Asia, he would have known the journey was impossible. He would have stayed home, and the Americas would have waited for someone else.